The platform at Silver Ridge Station was empty, except for the wind and the ghosts of promises long broken. Ethan Cross stood with his hands shoved deep into his coat pockets, his breath forming small clouds in the bitter December air. Snow clung to the eaves of the station house, and the iron rails stretched out into darkness like the bars of a cage. It was Christmas Eve, 1887, and he'd been waiting alone for 3 years, ever since the day Mary had left on this very platform, swearing she'd return. She never did. The telegram had arrived last Tuesday, forwarded through 3 different towns before finding him in Silver Ridge, where he'd stayed, rooted like a weathered stump. Father ill. Needed home. Forgive me. That was all she'd written. 3 years of silence condensed into a wire that cost more than his monthly wages. He'd spent those years running the ranch alone, mending fences no one would walk through, tending to cattle no one would help him sell, sleeping in a bed that had grown too large for one person. The train whistle sounded in the distance, a lonely cry that echoed off the snow-covered mountains. Ethan pulled his coat tighter. The locomotive appeared first as a red glow in the darkness, then as a thundering reality that shook the platform beneath his boots. Steam billowed upward, catching the light of the station lamps, and the great iron beast came to a screaming halt in a cloud of white. Nobody got off. Ethan waited, watching the windows. A porter descended from the passenger car, then another. The conductor checked his pocket watch against the station clock. Minutes stretched like taffy. The wind cut through Ethan's coat, and he wondered if this was how heartbreak would finally kill him. Not in a dramatic moment, but slowly, standing alone on a frozen platform on Christmas Eve, watching for a woman who would never come. Then she stepped down. Not Mary. This woman was taller, darker, moving with the cautious grace of someone unfamiliar with winter's grip. She wore a burgundy traveling coat and carried a single leather satchel. Her hair, visible beneath a felt hat, was the color of mahogany. She stumbled slightly on the icy step, and Ethan found his feet moving before his mind caught up. He caught her elbow, steadied her. "Careful," he said. "These platforms ice over something fierce." She looked up at him, and in the lamplight, he saw eyes the color of winter itself, gray-blue, luminous, filled with an exhaustion that spoke of long journeys and longer nights. Her skin was pale, her lips colorless from cold. "Thank you," she said, and her accent was Eastern, refined, everything that spoke of a life far from this frontier wilderness. I'm not accustomed to this climate." "Where you headed?" Ethan asked, still holding her elbow, because letting go suddenly felt like the most dangerous thing he could do. She hesitated, as if the question required tremendous consideration. "I'm looking for lodging. For the night, at least. I don't suppose there's a hotel in this town." "Silver Ridge Inn," Ethan said, 3 blocks north. "But miss," he paused, realizing he didn't know her name. "The roads are icing over. It's Christmas Eve. Most folks are home with their families. They might be full or closed." "Then I suppose I'll have to manage," she said. But there was something fragile in her voice, a brittleness that suggested she was barely holding together. Ethan made a decision that would reshape his entire life in the span of a heartbeat. "I have a ranch, about 4 miles north of town. It's not fancy, but it's warm and there's food. You could stay the night, catch the morning train if you want, or—" He trailed off, suddenly aware of how this sounded. A stranger offering a strange woman shelter. "My name is Ethan Cross. I'm not a criminal or a drunk. I'm just a man who doesn't much fancy seeing another human being freeze on Christmas Eve." The woman studied him, and he saw her weighing possibilities, measuring risks. Finally, she extended her hand. "Eleanor Price. I'm from Philadelphia, and I would be grateful for your kindness, Mr. Cross. I've been traveling for 6 days, and I confess I'm at the end of my resources." Her hand was cold in his, but her grip was firm. The ranch house was dark when they arrived, the horses kicking up snow as they pulled the wagon through the gate. Ethan hadn't expected to bring anyone home, hadn't expected to want to. The house had become a monument to his solitude, every room a reminder of what he'd lost. But Eleanor moved through it with quiet appreciation, noting the sturdy furniture, the kitchen that smelled faintly of wood smoke, the parlor where a bare Christmas tree stood in the corner, undecorated. "You were expecting someone," she observed, not unkindly, looking at the tree. "Once," Ethan said, "a long time ago. I suppose I never took it down." Eleanor removed her coat, revealing a dress of deep green velvet, worn but expensive. There was a sadness in her that matched his own. He recognized the way two wounded animals recognize each other. She moved to the tree and touched one of its branches. "May I?" she asked. "It's your home for the night," he replied. "Do as you wish." Eleanor spent the evening in the kitchen, while Ethan prepared food. She moved with an ease that suggested she'd spent time in kitchens before, and together they created a meal that was almost festive: roasted chicken, vegetables, biscuits that came out golden and warm. They ate by the fire, and slowly, over coffee that grew cold, Eleanor began to talk. "My father was a merchant," she said, staring into the flames. "He was a good man, but strict. He had already chosen my husband for me, a man of business, old money, the right connections. 3 months before the wedding, I met someone else, a man without connections or money, but with eyes that made me believe in possibility." She smiled sadly. "I left him a note and took the train west. I thought I was being brave." "What happened?" Ethan asked, though he suspected he knew. "He didn't come after me," Eleanor said quietly. "I waited in Denver for 2 months. Then my father sent word that my mother was dying. I had to go home. I had to make my peace with the life I'd chosen to refuse." She looked at Ethan. "But mothers don't forgive rebellion, Mr. Cross. And when they're dying, you discover that time is more valuable than vindication. We reconciled, my mother and I. She died in my arms. And for 3 years, I helped my father in his business, attended the right functions, wore the right dresses. I was everything he'd wanted, and empty as a church bell." "So you got on a train," Ethan said. "So I got on a train," Eleanor confirmed. "I'm going to California. I have savings. I thought perhaps I could start again, be a school teacher or open a bookshop, or simply exist on my own terms. I wasn't going anywhere in particular, just away from where I'd been." Ethan rose and moved to the window, looking out at the snow falling silently. "I was waiting for someone, too," he said. "She was supposed to come back. I waited so long that I forgot why I was waiting, and only remembered that I was good at it." He turned back to Eleanor. "But maybe," he continued slowly, "waiting's the wrong word. Maybe what we do is we wait in the wrong place, for the wrong person, when what we should be doing is moving forward. Maybe the person we're waiting for is someone we haven't met yet." Eleanor rose and came to stand beside him at the window. Their reflections ghosted in the glass, 2 solitary figures finding shape in the darkness. "Are you suggesting," she said, a smile playing at her lips, "that I should stay?" "I'm suggesting," Ethan said, turning to face her, "that California will still be there in the spring. And I'm suggesting that loneliness is a poor way to spend a life. And I'm suggesting that sometimes the best Christmas gift is not the one you plan for, but the one that arrives unexpected on a train." He took her hand. Her fingers were warm now from the fire, from the kitchen, from the simple act of being alive, and drew her toward the tree. "Help me decorate this," he said. "We have the night, and we have each other, and we have the morning to decide what comes next. But tonight, on Christmas Eve, we don't have to be alone anymore." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of something closer to relief. Together, they decorated the tree with whatever they could find. Scraps of ribbon, paper stars they folded from old newspapers, candles that cast a golden warmth through the house. By dawn, the tree was beautiful in a way that no expensive ornament could have made it. And when Eleanor looked at Ethan across the breakfast table, watching the snow fall outside, she knew she wouldn't catch the morning train to California. "I think," she said softly, "I've already found where I need to be." Ethan smiled, a real smile, the first in 3 years, and reached across the table to take her hand. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the landscape in white, erasing the boundaries between one life and another, between the loneliness of yesterday and the promise of every tomorrow that stretched ahead. Christmas had come to Silver Ridge after all.